What's up, everybody? It's Pikel. We're back with another free episode of the Infinity Edge podcast. They're all free now. Uh, but yeah, we're getting to the end of the LCS and LEC splits. We have one semifinal match in each region, and then we have the finals. Today, we're just talking about that first match, though, right? Just the semifinals matches?
We could probably just get into the hypotheticals of the other if we'd like, or
Yep,
yeah,
that's fine with me.
let's do it.
All right. Well, as per usual, I'm joined by the Ghost and the Hef.
Oh,
Alan 1 and Alan 2. Do we have any things that we're supposed to promote nowadays?
nope. As far as I know, we have no sponsors, but hey, if we help you guys win a slate with some of this information, you guys can always donate at the esportsdepartment.com/donate. It goes to everyone equally, and you can help out the creators who are doing things here for free.
Yes, 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 and like and subscribe on the video.
That too. All right, well, we can hop right into it. Semifinals of the LEC, we have Rogue versus Fnatic. Fnatic has one of the craziest roads throughout the playoffs I think I've ever seen in the LEC. Every single match has been a 3-2 in Fnatic's favor. Rogue, on the other hand, 3-2 against Misfits, and then just got shut out against Mad Lions. So I'll throw it over to Alan on this one. Will this be another win for Fnatic going 3-2 to face Mad Lions in the finals?
Hmm. I can see it for sure. I think that 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 series with Rogue and Mad Lions was pretty depressing and disheartening to me as someone who wants Rogue to be I think better than they are. I think that they just really struggle with this style of team that kind of plays unpredictably and forces them to play on their terms. I think that Fnatic forces basically every team, to play on their terms. They make you skirmish no matter what. Now sometimes that's their downfall as well, but I think in a 5 game series you're probably gonna hit the good Fnatic more often than the bad Fnatic, and so I think I do favor the Fnatic side here. I think that the top lane matchup, Odoamne against Adam is pretty close. Obviously, very different styles of players, so I think it's hard to compare too much there. Mid lane, I know that a lot of people are gonna look at that and say that Larson's gonna shit on Niski. I think that this is pretty good Niski meta right now. He can play Syndra at a okay level. His TF is, I think, elite, and then I think the other picks he's fine enough at that. I don't see that being a huge problem for Fnatic. And then I think I really like their bot lane against Rogue's bot lane. Rogue's bot lane got absolutely shit on by Mad Lions, and in some ways I would say that Kaiser and Hylissang are similar players. Obviously, Hylissang is a more explosive and crazy player than Kaiser, but he does a lot of the same things that Kaiser was doing to Rogue that really seemed to put them off their game. So I think that's where I like them the most, and that's where I kind of expect Fnatic to be the winners here. I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say about this.
All right, we'll throw it over to you, Michael, on this one. I want to see if you are still going to believe in Fnatic and Yamato Cannon sneaking into the finals, but I assume you're going to take the road side here.
Well, what do you think about this matchup, Ghost? As someone who hates League of Legends.
As someone who really hates League of Legends, I think Rogue bounced back in this spot. I think Fnatic has enough games on tape. They've played 15 matches. If you can't figure out what Fnatic's doing and make a game plan around that, then yeah, you should be, I guess they'd be third in the LCS and then the lower bracket of Worlds. So that would be their deserved spot. But if you have this much film over the last couple weeks, Rogue should be able to handle this.
Okay. Yeah, so Rogue is listed as the favorite. I'm pretty sure yesterday they were the dog. So I think that may have flipped. But before I get into the matchups, I just wanted to talk quickly about the narratives that are surrounding the teams. Because, like Alan said, the fact that, well, I guess both Allens have touched on this. The Fnatic's journey throughout the playoffs has required them to play a ton of matches, which gives them more opportunities to look good and look bad. So if a lot of their losses look good enough where they were like a coin flip away from winning, that's just more good gameplay that people are going to feel positive about. Ultimately, I think that being pushed to 5 games against Vitality, Misfits, G2, in reality, it's a negative thing. It does mean, like, yes, they can play these long matches and they're used to playing these long matches, but it means that they weren't able to create like large enough victories, like more decisive victories, in a more consistent way. So that's kind of going to happen pretty often with a team like Fnatic, because, like you said, they're a bloody team. They try to bend the other team to their will and force them to fight a bunch of objectives. It's more difficult to force a team like Rogue to do that. So the last thing that we've heard about Rogue, or the last thing that we saw from Rogue, is Rogue being swept by Mad Lions. The first game they got completely blown out, but the second and third games were very close. It was 30-22 and 26-24, and yes, like 30-22 seems like it feels bad, like it sounds bad, but in reality, that game was extremely close and was one team fight going the opposite direction, from Rogue winning that match. The fact that they had these bot lane matchups, I think, is part of the reason why they probably didn't look very good. I think that giving up Varus to a team that's expected to have the tempo advantage early game in the laning phase for Mad Lions because of the way that they play around their bot lane for the most part and how aggressive they are in the bot lane, giving them that type of champion, or giving them the winning side of a matchup in the bot lane, just seems really stupid to me. Like, I know you want to have Hans Sama on something that can carry the game, and they tried to have Aphelios be the champion that's going to carry them through the late game. But it's just not necessary to play that way right now. You're just creating a more difficult draft for yourself, which is always kind of, like a facepalm situation. Like, why are you making the game so much more difficult for yourself? So the fact that Ottawa had a rough game 1, good game 2, good game 3. I think that Adam and Ottawa are pretty similar, like you said. I think Adam's probably more likely to put themselves into a bad matchup through the draft. Not that it's his decision, but I think that the fact that we've seen them on things like Tom Kench and Dr. Mundo, I think, already in these playoffs, is just super bad. I don't like Ornn either, but if you're playing it on a team that has Orianna and Aphelios, like, I can kind of understand why you would do that. I just, from a talent evaluation perspective, I still think that Inspired's better than Bwipo. Bwipo's a super good player, but I think that Inspired's a better jungler overall, and probably the more talented player. Larson against Nisqy, like you said, Nisqy's in a good spot where he has some champions that he can kind of lean back onto. But like Ghost said, if you have this much tape and this much information about their champion pools, you have to be able to draft around that. So I would expect probably trying to pinch Nisqy's champion pool and playing around that specifically. And then in the bot lane, Hansama and Trimby against Upset and Hylissang. I think that right now Upset is probably the most overrated player in Europe, because they have had some good performances. They have had good carry performances. And when you're an 80 carry playing League of Legends and you start going off in a game, you can get 5 kills in one fight multiple times in a game. It's more likely you'll get like a triple kill and a quadra kill or something. But once you get that little advantage and you're playing against a team who's continuously fighting you, you're going to get so many opportunities to have a ridiculous number of kills in the game. So the fact that we've seen such high kill scores from Fnatic is going to overinflate people's opinions of Fnatic, in my opinion. And going into the split, everybody knows that I think that Rogue's a more talented team than Fnatic. Everybody knows that I make all the Yamato jokes, and maybe I am blinded by my absolute disgust for Yamato canon, but ultimately I try not to let that impact how I actually view the matchups. Like, I just, from a talent perspective, the players that will be playing the games, I prefer Rogue. And then the coaches who will be drafting the drafts, I prefer anybody but Yamato canon. So for that reason, I am on Rogue.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Jordan,
all those.
I I think
you,
I mean I understand what you're saying about Upset being, overrated in the sense that like when he has an enormous score, you're going to think that he's better than he is. I think of him as the same as like a lot of these like kind of risk adverse AD carries. Like he's very much in the vein of like the Sven, Reckless, that kind of stuff, where it's just like if your team does well, he's going to, deliver damage on the back line, but he's not going to like jump in and make game changing plays like Karzi might or something like that. But I think like Hansama is kind of the bad version of Karzi, or at least can be. Like he he got caught out so many times in that series against who the fuck am I trying to say right
Mad
now?
Lions.
Mad Lions, thank you. And it was just kind of like gross, some of the stuff that he was doing and the positioning that he was trying. And I do think that like that's very punishable by someone like Hillsong.
So I do agree with that point about Upset being that style of AD carry, and that's why I think that they are overrated because people want to say like, oh, Reckless is up here, and then uh, Kabe and Upset and these other like more traditional AD carries are like in another blob, and people when Upset has a good performance, they want to think of them like, oh, that's Reckless now, where their peak isn't going to be the same kind of peak that Reckless has
Sure.
or had in the past. So that's why I think it's a very short term boost in confidence from like the community onto a player like Upset. Can Upset go out there and have a good matchup against Rogue and snowball a couple of games and look super good? Yeah, of course. Like they're a good quality AD carry, but now people have them as that plus more, and that's where the issue is. Like going into the split, I think when we were talking about talent in the different roles, I'm pretty sure that we did all of us talk about Upset being a good player but just stuck on Origin, but like players like Crown Shot, Kabe, uh, Upset, they're all
Yeah.
somewhat similar. Like
Oh
they're
yeah,
they're
for
not
sure.
really the difference
Yeah.
makers, and that's why I love Hansama. Like he plays on the edge, and he wants to put himself in a spot where he has to try to outplay the enemy. Is that the best thing to do in every single game? No. Will it make you look stupid? Yes, but that just increases the variance of a player like Hansama. It doesn't mean that they exist like towards the lower end of that spectrum. So the fact that we're getting Hansama down here and Upset up here in terms of public perception, and it's really somewhere in the middle, I
Yeah.
think that's probably the best reason to be on Rogue.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I mean, I just think that like the way that Rogue is built, like it's kind of it's an alarming way to build a team. Like you don't really want your AD carry to be your like main risk taker, and I feel like that's the way that Rogue is a lot of the time, which is kind of I don't like that style of League of Legends.
Gives you heartburn.
Yes.
So let's do the hypothetical finals. You do your hypothetical finals, and I'll do my hypothetical finals because we have different matchups.
Cool. I'm into that. All right, so I think then I would have Fnatic against Mad Lions in the final. I have underrated Mad Lions in every playoffs they've ever been in. I think the team has lost me more money than any other team, and I still just can't. I can't bring myself to want to bet on them again. Like I think I would favor Fnatic here. I think that they do obviously do lots of very similar things. They're both crazy teams that will fight over the smallest of objectives. You could see lots of Krugs fights in this series. I think it goes back and forth, and I think at the end of the day, I like certain players on Fnatic to pull it out. I think it really just comes down to like I believe in Bwipo as a difference maker more than I believe in anyone on Mad Lions as a difference maker. Now, I would have said the exact same thing about G2, right? I would have said I believe in Caps as a difference maker more than I believe in anyone on Mad Lions as a difference maker, and they kind of rolled G2. And same thing with Rogue. I probably would have said I like Inspired more than anyone on Mad Lions. So with that bias out there, I just think that like Mad Lions sometimes runs really really hot for a little while and then they come back to earth. Like we saw this where they had a great run and then as soon as they got to Worlds, it was kind of questionable again, right? And then they had a great run and MSI, I mean, at MSI they were pretty good. I can't really fault them for that. They went 3-2 with Damwon, right? At MSI. Yeah, so like maybe it's just my bias coming through, but then like right after MSI they were terrible in the LEC for a while too. So I just think they're a highly variant team and when it comes to highly variant, I want a player that I know is is a difference maker, and I think for me that's Blippo and over anyone on Mad Lions, and so I think I would favorite Fnatic in that matchup, and then like obviously I think that like the ownership discount you're going to get by playing Fnatic against Mad Lions is probably reason enough to just play Fnatic if you believe that the teams are relatively close like I do. Like I would, I'm talking about Fnatic having like a 52-48% edge or something like that. Like it's not anything serious, but on a 2-game slate, obviously like you pick your teams, you put them in there, you hope that they win. And so like if Fnatic's going to be 20% owned compared to Mad Lions 60% owned, then I would love Fnatic in that scenario, and I think that's kind of a reasonable, uh, a reasonable esque split.
All right, we'll move on to you, Michael. Give us your theoretical matchup. You'll have Rogue versus Mad Lions.
Well, before I do that, I just want to say if Fnatic does beat Rogue, I think that Mad Lions would completely dominate Fnatic, and I think that if that is the series of events that happens, I'd be very happy because I would love for Mad Lions to go into Worlds as like, oh my god, they destroyed everybody in Europe, blah blah blah. They're so good. They're gonna make such a huge run at Worlds, and then just fall flat on their face, pick against them every single match, and try to print money that way.
I do like that idea.
Yeah, so that would be the best. In terms of Rogue against Mad Lions, I think it really comes down to how that match played out the other day. Like, there's no way that if you play Rogue against Mad Lions, like in numerous 5-game sets a day, the number of times that it comes out as a sweep for Mad Lions over Rogue, I think is just like so low. The fact that they had these two very close matches in games 2 and 3, and they both got flipped into Mad Lions' favor. Sure, you can try to make the argument that it comes down to execution and they just played better in that moment. But at the same time, that's just one day's worth of games. People want to put so much more emphasis on these games than they probably deserve to have. In my mind, the reason why I think that the talent stuff is so important is because over a larger set of games, who do you think would win? I think that Rogue would win. I just can't shake that feeling. So it comes down to how are these teams going to draft against each other. I think that Odoamne against Armut, it's a perfect example of like draft decides the matchup because Armut played Jace against Camille. That matchup can easily go the opposite direction, but Armut got fed out of his mind, went 10-1-9 against Odoamne, going 0-7-1. Games like that happen in volatile matchups either way. Armut against Odoamne, Jace against Ornn. Jace basically just gets a free lane, and can sometimes punish the Ornn if they don't really like play respectfully. I guess you could say. I hate using the word respect a lot of the time when describing matchups, but it is kind of just the accurate word. And then in the last game, they flipped the Jace for a GP, which is fine. And Odoamne had the better side of that matchup, went 10-6-5 against Armut, who went 3-7-12. So you see these matchups where it can go either way, so it's going to come down to draft. Like, I think that they're close enough in terms of skill where draft will decide that. Inspired against Elyoya, I think Inspired's just a better player than Elyoya. People will probably want to disagree with me about that, but just think about how good Shadow looked for most of the year last year. Then they take a split off, they go to China, and they're playing extremely well in China. So if you took Shadow back and you plugged him back into Mad Lions, they'd probably be right around this level of a team. It's just that there was so much negative sentiment around Shadow, they felt like they had to move him off the team, which is kind of insane. I just think Elyoya is super overrated at this point. Larson against Humanoid. I think that Alan definitely agrees with me that Larson is better than Humanoid. Humanoid is one of his least favorite people in the world, apparently. I don't love the fact that Larson pulled out a TF game. Not really the kind of champion I want to see Larson on. But he's just the kind of player who can play basically anything. So hopefully they don't put them into a bad spot in the draft. I think it's much more likely that Mad Lions gets put into a bad mid lane matchup because of Humanoid's limitations as a mid laner, which he is a good mid laner. He is not an elite mid laner in the West, and he's not an elite mid laner globally. And then in the bot lane, like what Alan was saying, Carzzy and Kaiser versus Hansama and Trimby, for me, they do have similarities between the two, where like they're both willing to make the aggressive play and try to put the team on their back and carry a match. I just think that Hansama is better than Carzzy, and maybe I'm wrong about that because they are pretty similar. I don't think there's a huge talent gap. But what if I told you like Hansama got Draven 2 or 3 games in this match? Like, would you change your opinion? Like, I think going Aphelios into Varus, you're asking for trouble. Aphelios into Kalista, you're asking for trouble. So I think it's more likely we get more of what we saw in Game 3. The Game 3 draft is probably more similar to where they're going to try to bring this matchup. Because in Game 3, they had Jace against GP, which is a pretty good matchup. You're taking away the Jace from Armut. If you do it again, they're probably going to try to pick Wukong against it, but that's kind of whatever. Wukong's really good against Jace. And then Xin Zhao, very good jungler, but a lot of these junglers kind of play the same role. And then stealing away Humanoid's TF, which I think is a good move because it takes away one more champion out of his champion pool. And then having the Kalista Leona into Ashe Braum. You do have I think that side you kind of both have chances to win that match, depending on who's being the aggressor and who's overextending to try to make a play. But I've come this far with having a high opinion of Rogue. I don't see one match and think, oh my god, I was so wrong about them forever. I kind of just have to trust that over time my opinion of Rogue is somewhat accurate. So for that reason, I think that Rogue will get through Fnatic, and then Rogue will get through Mad Lions, and will be the winners of the summer split.
Very interesting. Both of you think in your theoretical matchups that Mad Lions will fall. I did not expect that coming into today.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah. Maybe it's our contrarian nature. We're already just like
Maybe
I want the other team that comes through to upset Mad Lions. I don't know.
All right, you guys ready to hop over to the LCS?
Sure.
Born ready.
All right, hopping over to the best league in the world, LCS. We deserve 5 world spots. Fight me at xGoshare90 on Twitter. So, our round 4 semifinals. We have 100 Thieves versus Cloud9. 100 Thieves rode to this spot. They beat EG 3-2, lost to Team Liquid 3-2. Cloud9, on the other hand, lost to Team Liquid 3-1, 3-0'd Golden Guardians, 3-0'd EG, and had a tight series against TSM 3-2. Now, Michael, we'll start with you first on this one. Are Cloud9 going to take this series, or are my 100 Thieves futures going to stay alive?
I think this is probably a good time for you to hedge, because I do expect C9 to beat 100 Thieves. So it's the same starting point as every other matchup that I'm going to talk about. My long-term talent evaluation says that C9 is better than 100 Thieves. I think that Fudge and Someday are very close. It's going to come down to matchups. I think that 100 Thieves is much more likely to put Someday onto a champion like Ornn, which they did against Team Liquid, and just basically give away the lane to try to play for the rest of the team. That's going to give Fudge opportunities to pick carry champions in good matchups, which is a very good thing for C9. It's just one additional carry option, and Fudge has been a very good player this split and in the playoffs. C9 does sometimes play champions like Tom Kench in the top lane, and I can't stop them from doing it, but it's just horrible. Like doing that kind of stuff all you're doing is hurting your player's ability to like be a difference maker in the match. Like what scenario are they playing around? I just really don't understand it. Blabber against Closer, very similar players. I think their talent levels are pretty close. I think that Blabber is better. People have the lowest opinion of Blabber that they've had for like 2 years. Blabber is an extremely talented player, and we can't just let a couple of bad matches change all of that. It just doesn't make any sense. The champion pool overlap for Blabber and Closer is insane. Like they play all the same exact champion, so it's just going to come down to how the drafts go, what combinations of champions they want to get on all these players, and how they fit in with their team compositions. Perks against Abadaga. Perks and Abadaga now are both thought of as like, oh, they're EU mids that came over to North America, and they're both pretty good, especially when comparing them to the LCS players. I think a lot of people out there would probably maybe say that Abadaga has been better this split, this split. And I think that it's funny because, like, how fast are we to forget how great Perks is as a player? Like, I get the whole vision thing and the hat and all the memes and stuff like that. What if it's like a legitimate issue? Like, what if Perks really does truly have some kind of insane issue with his eyes where he just can't play up to the level that he has in the past? Even under those circumstances, he's the better player. Like he is better than Abadaga. If you were starting a team at the beginning of this split and I said you can have Perks or Abadaga, who would you pick? You would pick Perks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people are tricking themselves into like thinking the opposite is true now, which is just insane to me. The most interesting part of this matchup.
I'll push back a tiny bit. Like there are eventually players lose it. Like eventually you are no longer the player you once were. Like that, we've seen that a lot of times. I think in League of Legends, like Crown came to North America and was the worst mid laner in North America, right? So like at some point players lose it. I don't think that that's happening with Perks at all. But like, but just because you were once a great talent, it doesn't mean you are forever, right?
For sure. But the other thing with Crown is that Crown really wasn't the deciding factor of that team. Like he was more of like a secondary player on that team.
I mean,
like,
they are like
getting his money and everything, but
they're the most dysfunctional team in the history of esports. It feels like so. Yeah, it's hard to put that all on Crown.
Yeah. So the part that I think is really important between C9 and 100 Thieves is the bot lane matchup. I think that if you just look at the talent of the players, I do think that FBI is better than Zven at this point, but I think that Vulcan is better than Huhi. So if you want to say it's a wash, that's fine. Stylistically, I think that it's going to be more advantageous for Cloud9 because this is a meta where utility AD carries are what you need. If you're drafting the correct way and you're getting 3 strong champions on the top side of the map, and then you have a utility AD carry that can help with engage, can help put down some poke damage, can do well in the laning phase, like force attention from the other team to come to the bot lane while you're creating advantages for your solo laners. The solo laners are really the ones who need to try to win these matchups. Sometimes you will have a bot lane go insane because a team decided to make a bad trade and they got dove under their tower, or they make a slow rotation towards Rift Herald and get dove in the bot lane. Like those kinds of things happen. But in a majority of games and the champion power levels that exist right now, it's really not about the AD carries as often. I do think that if we get into a spot where C9 is continuously playing, super low range compositions against FBI's Aphelios, like yes, you could be asking for trouble. You can put yourself into a really bad spot, and you can just get blown out of some games. But it seems so much easier to play the C9 side of the matchups the way that I'm thinking they're going to turn out. Like if you are the stronger top half of the map, then you have the advantage there already. And if you draft intelligently in the bot lane, you should be able to at least go even. And if 100 Thieves is thinking we'll just outscale them, then C9 has new chances to win the game in the early game. So for that reason, for that reason, I'm on C9, and also from the long-term talent perspective, I'm on C9. What I was going to ask, can you guys guess how? Can you guys guess the age difference between Perks and Abadaga?
I mean, it feels like it's 100 years, so it's probably like one. Is Perks 23 and Abadaga's like 22 or something like that?
Yeah, I'll go with 2.
It's one. They're 1 year different. It's like the King's Ven situation.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you got this scrappy young AD carry, and it's like, well, actually, they're roughly the same exact age. It's just like we get so used to seeing these players all the time, we just assume that they're so much older. But Perks came in, I think, as a 17-year-old and was just dominating people. So like, Abadaga took more time to get there. But I just thought that was a funny tidbit to share.
That is pretty funny because I do feel like they talk like the way that they talk on the broadcast is always Perks as like a grizzled veteran and Abadaga as a young upstart. Yeah. Interesting.
All right. We'll throw it over to you, Alan. Give us your breakdown. 100 Thieves versus Cloud9.
We have found a place of agreement, I think. I was just while Michael was talking, I was thinking about Perks and like how bad has he really been this year? And like I think that a lot of what people see with Perks is like attempted playmaking that goes bad and he dies a lot. Like he has the highest death percentage of any mid laner in the entire league for his team, which
like those Renekton games.
Yeah, which makes you look really bad. And he, I mean, at times he has done like really dumb stuff this year, I think, and like I think that that's just like a feature of his play style. But like if you look at the rest of his stats, like he's right up there with anybody besides Jizuke. Like, you know, like his gold differentials are really good, his KDA is pretty good even though he's dying so much. Like his kill participation is really high. So like he's not, I don't know. Like I think that people see the like needless deaths and remember those very strongly, and especially when it like loses you money gambling or loses you money playing DFS, like that just hurts you, I think. I think
sure.
I mean, I think that's part of my problem with Mad Lions, like watching them hurt me when I've bet on them as a favorite is like it really sticks out because they just do such dumb shit, and like Perks is exactly like that. But like long term, I totally agree. Like I think that Perks was actually worth a salary that they paid him. You know, like Sword Art, that's not gonna work out for TSM. I can tell you right now. That paying your support 7 million or whatever the fuck is not the way. But like Perks, I think actually like raises your ceiling as a team significantly. And then I just like Cloud9's talent better besides the bot lane. And I think that like what Michael said about the bot lane is accurate. Like FBI is definitely better than Sven. Sven is also just a very risk adverse player, like some of the AD carries we were talking about, although I think he's worse than them, and so like at times ends up in worse situations and loses more often. But Vulcan can cover up for some of that, and then every other position I think I favor Cloud9, and that doesn't change, from season long results. Like Cloud9 went 15-12 during the split, I think, and 100 Thieves were like 19-8 or something. I just don't care. Like I just think that Cloud9's a better team than 100 Thieves, and I think that like if you pick against Cloud9 in this matchup and 100 Thieves loses, you're gonna feel pretty stupid, I think. Like I feel like if Cloud9 loses, I'm gonna be like, oh, they did dumb stuff and threw the game away. If 100 Thieves loses, I'm gonna be like, you knew that they were never gonna win, you dumbass, like yeah. So like I think it's like 65% Cloud9 or something like that. So I would definitely be looking at at Cloud9 and Fnatic stacks, I'm sure you can get lots of cool combinations there.
All right, so since you both of you agree that Cloud9 are going to beat 100 Thieves tomorrow, what's the final score? Is it a 3-0, 3-1, or 3-2?
I'll go first. I think it's probably a 3-1. I mean, that's obviously the most likely outcome in the history of League of Legends. I'm pretty sure in 5-game series, at least it feels that way. But I also just think that, like, Cloud9 is, is a significant enough step above 100 Thieves that they probably take care of them in 4 games. 100 Thieves probably gets one off of a good blue side draft.
All right, Michael, your thoughts on that?
If I had to make a bet on the final score for the series, I would probably bet on 3-2, just because I don't really trust Cloud9's drafting 100% right now. I think that they. I'm closer to. I think if I was ranking them in order, it'd be 3-2, Cloud9, and then 3-0 Cloud9, and then 3-1 Cloud9. I think it's more likely we get like shaky C9 who throws away 1 or 2 games, has really questionable drafts in a few of the first matches in the series, but ultimately figures it out, settles into their drafting strategy, and like has very similar games 3, 4, 5 drafts where both teams kind of settle into their identities and just like want to run it back a couple times. If 100 Thieves is able to pull it out, I feel like then it would also just be like a 3-2 spot. I am a little concerned. Like, I don't know. It's just going to be a clash. Like the people who have been supporting 100 Thieves the entire split probably feel like they've made it to the spot where it's going to finally pay off, and it's like, oh, I can finally feel good about 100 Thieves getting to the finals and winning in the finals because Cloud9 looks shakier right now. But I know for a fact that if I had 100 Thieves like futures out there, I'd probably be looking to hedge right now because I just wouldn't feel super comfortable. It depends the number that you got them at. Like I don't think you could really get that great of a number. You have a future on them, right, Ghost?
Yeah.
So what number did you get it at back when you got it preseason?
I'll have to check.
I mean,
is it like under 20-1?
I think
I think it's over.
Yeah, preseason
Really?
they were like 25-1 or something like that. Yeah.
I think that's where I have it at. Yeah.
I mean, then that's perfect because I think that it's gonna take some money to get yourself into a good hedge spot. So I think getting it at 25, that's shocking to me. I completely forgot what it was at. That seems like a bet I was probably telling people to make at 25-1.
Yeah.
How long could that have lasted out there? That seems kind of insane.
Yeah, it was out there for a while, a preseason. So yeah, I would definitely look to hedge. Who's the favorite in this game, dude? I haven't even
C9.
looked. C9.
C9 minus 140.
I mean, that's plenty of. You could hedge pretty easily there, I think.
I must have gotten it pretty late. It was at plus 850.
Yeah, that's more where I thought it was. I thought it was more like that. So yeah, that's really it. I mean, I say this a decent amount in these videos where I'm forced to see the matchup a certain way, and it's because if you have like an actual opinion about this kind of stuff, you need to see it through. You need to see it through the entire season. Like unless you see something that fundamentally changes your opinion of a team,
I think
why change your opinion?
yeah, I think that applies like tenfold in best of fives too. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on to our theoretical finals. It will be C9 TL, backing all the way to round 1, where TL had the better of C9 in a 3-1 series. So, Alan, will throw to you in your theoretical final. Who is going to win Summer?
Oh, what a treat it will be to see these two go at each other. We've never seen it before. I I think I would go with Cloud9 again.
You do not sound enthused about that decision at all.
I am not. It makes me kind of sick to say. I've bet on Cloud9 against Team Liquid in a lot of spots and lost money, but it's exactly what we've been talking about. I think that like if one team gets to come in with also a little bit of practice behind them, and you kind of believe in the talent longer, and you know they have a little. Well, I guess Team Liquid has more time to prepare for Cloud9, so that's not exactly the angle that you want to take. So I'm just gonna stick with what I said basically about 100 Thieves and Cloud9. Like I just like Cloud9's players long term better. I think Jensen has had a very good playoffs. I don't think that like long term he is this player, this like risky Leeson, LeBlanc, go in kind of guy. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop when we see Jensen in a big moment, and he's got that like this look on his face, and then the and then he just doesn't do anything in a team fight because he doesn't believe in his teammates at all. I'm waiting for that shoe to drop, and there's nobody on Cloud9 that's gonna look like that. Maybe Sven, I suppose, but 80 carries you can hide anyway. So yeah, I I think Fudge Alfari. I favor Alfari in that matchup, but I think it's probably closer than I did before. I think I favor Blabber over Santorin. I definitely favored Perks over Jensen, and then bot lane I think is again relatively close. Very good supports with kind of okay 80 carries, and that's fine. So that's two more positions that I like more for Cloud9 than the one position I like more for Team Liquid. So we're gonna stick it out with Cloud9, and also I think that it makes sense as the play for a DFS and probably for a betting standpoint. I'm sure that Team Liquid will be the favorite this time after 3-1ing them, and I think that series that was 3-1 in some ways like. Team Liquid looked like they dominated that series because I think that Cloud9 was a little surprised by Jensen's play in particular. But I actually think that that's just how Team Liquid's going to look when they win games. I don't think it has that much bearing on like the talent gap between the two teams.
All right, Michael, we'll throw it over to you. Give us your finals. Team Liquid C9. Who's taking Summer and the LCS finals?
So I like a lot of what Hef said there. I agree with I think almost all of it. So the one thing about Fudge and Alfari, I agree from a talent perspective. I think that they're very similar. I've thought that Alfari is kind of overrated for a long time. Not saying that they're bad, but like yes, they're very good, but it's not like everyone else is complete garbage. A lot of it comes down to matchups, like champion matchups. And Alfari has basically threatened everyone on his team enough to force them to give him good champions. If you see him on a tank during this series, I can assure you he will not be playing for Team Liquid next split. he will go out. He will lose his mind. If he probably wouldn't be allowed to play at Worlds if they started putting him on tanks and they lost. There's no way that they could do that. It would make absolutely no sense from like a theory perspective. With that being said, Cloud9 I feel like is somewhat likely to put Fudge onto a stupid champion and just lose a game for it. Like the Mundo, the Tom Kench, the Ornn, they're sitting right there. They're gonna be like, oh, let's just play a tank, and then it's like, well, shit. Like now we just get rocked. So I'm genuinely afraid of that. I think that it's very possible that happens in this matchup. When Cloud9 and Team Liquid played earlier this playoffs, Cloud9 had a much higher Viego priority over Team Liquid, and I think that they were basically just unlucky to not take that and like roll through the series. Tactical played a lot of like Ziggs and early game champions. Ziggs, Jhin, had a Jinx game, and then played Ziggs again. And I think that's another thing that really scares me. I think that the bot lane matchup for the bot lane matchup for Cloud9 against 100 Thieves is nice because you have a stylistic difference. The issue here is that you have the same kind of champions that are really going to be the best in this matchup. Team Liquid plays around tactical in a more early game kind of way. Not that they're a bloody team through the bot lane, but having Ziggs and getting lane control on Ziggs, Varus, Jhin, at least being able to match the other team's aggression in the early portion of the game, that makes me pretty afraid. Because you can get a lot of these weird spots where like Team Liquid can have a really good rotation because Team Liquid has Ziggs and they're willing to just leave Ziggs down in the bot lane. He could potentially TP up to like top Scuttle for like Rift Herald or something. And then you have Core JJ already running up there. Like that kind of stuff scares me because that is the kind of team that Team Liquid is. They will play that style of game. In the jungle, I think Blabber is much better than Santorin. I think that Santorin generally doesn't get enough love, but it's getting to be a little too much. They're like, oh, Santorin's back. They have their full roster. They're so good. Oh my god. It's like he's not that good. He looks good because of the team that he's on. Like if you took Santorin and put him on a bad team, he's not going to make a bad team a good one. He's going to be a good jungler on a bad team, and they're just going to lose a bunch of games. That's just kind of what happens with a lot of these players. He's not the winning difference.
I really want them to either force him through like their drafting against it or just banning, like to get him off of like Sejuani and Trundle, because like that's the Santorin special. Like you're not you're not taking advantage of him if he's on those champions.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Because like Alfari, you can't ban out every carry champion in the top lane. You can't ban every control mage in the mid lane. You can't ban every AD carry. Like you can get rid of specific matchups that you don't like, but attacking Santorin's probably the way to go to force him into a volatile matchup in the jungle. Maybe you lose one of those volatile games, but that can happen against anybody. So that wouldn't bother me really if they did attack Santorin during the draft. And then Perks against Jensen, I agree. Perks is much better than Jensen historically, and people will remember Perks as the much better player than Jensen. That's just the way that it is. That will not change. I wonder how old Jensen is. 26.
Oh,
so
he's older than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. In the bot lane, Vulcan and Core JJ both very good. Tactical is probably better than Sven at this point, and like I said, the style of this matchup concerns me. So, if Team Liquid wins, it would be like, oh, Alfari was in a carry against a tank, and then Santorin got a tank in the jungle, and then Tactical was on Callista and just won through bot lane. It's gonna be like nauseating how telegraphed their win's going to be, which just makes me like dread that potential outcome. But I have to be on C9. Obviously, they're the team that I think is the more talented team. But I definitely see how close the matchup is. So I would say Cloud9 3-2, unless they have something up their sleeve where they can turn the top lane matchup or the bot lane matchup. Like if they have some good ideas about how to punish a Ziggs or how to punish Varus, then C9 will be in a much better spot. But I really don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's more likely that C9 in this situation pivots in the bot lane, and instead of playing the utility AD carries that get them into the finals, they're like, oh, well, Tactical is going to play Ziggs and like all these other late game champions. Let's just play Aphelios again. And then it'll be a really tough early game to maneuver. So I don't feel great about it, but I have to be on C9.
All right, Alan, did you want to give your prediction on the 3-0, 3-2, 3-1?
Yeah, I think that it's probably a 3-2 scenario. Feels like that's the Team Liquid Cloud9 final special.
If C9 has a shitty draft, if C9 has bad draft preparation, Team Liquid could 3-0 this.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a very live, very scary outcome for me.
If they're playing the Viego mid lane again, I'm shutting it down. I will just be turning the computer off and leaving for the day.
Wow. All right. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to say about wrapping up the LEC and LCS and kind of our content, unless we're doing special stuff for Worlds, which I'm not 100% sure on yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you to anybody who's watched, followed along during the season. Hopefully, we've been helpful. Please like and subscribe on the video, and keep it rolling into next year.
I concur. That is a good thing to say.
A man of many words, Michael. You guys been watching much LPL or LCK?
Yeah, I've been.
Yeah.
I usually watch them.
Really quick, who's winning the LPL? Who's winning the LCK? Your quick thoughts.
It's pretty easy. Damn One Gaming and FPX.
Yeah, I think Dom1 wins. I really want World Elite to beat EDG again, make it back, and play better against FPX. So I'll say World Elite. I think that they can still do it.
That is.
I love World Elite.
Spicy.
Super spicy. Last take from all of us here. Well, I want to thank you guys all again for joining for another great year of League of Legends. Worlds should be fun. We have some interesting teams that are going to be making it. For myself, you can find me at xcoaster90 on Twitter, Alan at ahelfleda, and Michael at League of Items. We love having you here. Have a great rest of your weekend, and good luck on the slates.
See ya.